been like since you did?
Yeah, it's been really good. I think there's a lot of good well wishes out there today. I think I decided maybe a couple of months ago, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, that it was going to be my final year, and I suppose I just wanted to kind of get it out there that I was going to be retiring, just because I know there's going to be a lot of rugby over the next couple of weeks, and I didn't want there to be any distractions at the end of the year or anything. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want it to be a big announcement or anything, so I just wanted to get it out of the way, really, just to get it out there, and as well, and I said I didn't want to be a distraction, so it's good to get it out there anyway.
Yes, you didn't fancy a Rory Best or a Brian O'Driscoll or what's going to be a Johnny Sexton long goodbye?
No, I didn't. I didn't want to drag it out as much as I could. I just wanted to get it done with and move on, to be honest.
Very good. Just I want to bring you back. It could be 7, 8, 10 years ago now. When you think of the trajectory of a rugby player in a second row, you'd have your kind of naturally you have your height, your strength, and all that, and you would have been a solid, dependable second row player. And people remarked that at the time that you kind of had a spurt in your playing ability, for want of a better phrase. Do you remember that, or what happened at that time where you became more than just a dependable second row? You were carrying the ball, you were offloading, you were linking up, and it was an unusual trajectory, because it wasn't just you were getting better with experience, it was almost as if you became a different rugby player. Do you remember that and what happened around that time?
Like, I don't think it didn't just happen overnight, you know. I think it kind of doesn't happen anymore, that it takes a couple of years to bed in, and because lads are coming on the scene now, and they're ready for international rugby as soon as they leave school. So it doesn't really work that way anymore. But I do remember, I suppose, getting more into it and getting more game time, just in and around maybe. Well, my first Six Nations really campaign where I was starting was 2014. So in around maybe 13, 14 was when I was kind of 12, 13, 14. I was starting a lot with Leinster, and I started to start with Ireland a lot then. So it was probably in around those couple of years that I kind of started to kick on. I don't have any reason why. I didn't try to focus on anything in particular. I just tried to focus on me and my job. I knew I was dependable, and I knew in order to get to international rugby as a second row, you needed to nail your basics, which I thankfully did. The line out was one of my strengths. Was quite dependable on restarts, and then you just have to look after your ruck and your breakdown, your defence. Then, so it's just those subsequent things that come in, like I suppose your carrying and your offloading it kind of, like, I've never obviously been the biggest offloader or the biggest carrier, but when I did, I was a bit dependable. So I suppose, again, as you say, I was dependable. So I suppose that's why I think I was probably getting picked.
And if you have some standout memories, Leinster and Ireland, what do you pick? What's the top of the list?
There's so many, so many. Like, you know, you could say the 4 Heineken Cups, but I think for Leinster, I think the European Cup in 2018 would have been my favourite one, I suppose, because I started the whole campaign and I started the final, and I think that year in general, I think the 2018 year in general was huge, because we obviously won the Grand Slam with Ireland, and then we won the double with Leinster, and then we went on tour to Australia, and we won our the summer tour down in Australia. So 2018 was huge. But I suppose with Ireland, you can't really look past the game in Chicago against the All Blacks. And then to beat them at home again in the Aviva was brilliant. I think Six Nations wise, my first Six Nations victory in 2014 was huge. I think that was up there with my favourites as well, because to win it, we won it over in the Stade de France by beating France. And again, it was my first kind of campaign that I played a lot of rugby as well. So it was. Again, there's a lot of memories and a lot of good ones to pick from, so that's it's always a good sign of a good career, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Last one from me. What's next, Devin?
Yeah, I have a few things. I'm in the middle of doing some exams. I'm doing the QFAs, so I think I'm going to be getting into the finance world. Just a couple of client relationships, partnerships kind of thing. Like, so I think I'll be letting people know in the next couple of months, I suppose.
Okay, but you'll be under a little bit of pressure to give something back in terms of what you know, your knowledge base, and how useful that would be. But you're going to take a break, I presume. So if that's the case,
I'll take a little bit of a break. I always thought that I didn't think that the coaching world was for me. I think over the last 15, well, I suppose I've only had a family for the last 5 years, but my missus has been with me for 16 years. Do you mean? And I think professional rugby takes a huge toll on family life, you know, and I think I owe it to them and I owe it to my family to take a step back and give back. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you're away every weekend and your wife and your partners take the burden and everything. Do you know what I mean? Taking care of kids and everything. So you got to take that, do the unselfish thing and try and give back. And I think a coach's life is nearly worse than the player's life, because they're at every game and they're doing all the hours under the sun in the office. So as I said, I'm going to take a little bit of a step back, but you never know what might crop up in the next year or two. You know.
Listen, that's brilliant. Thanks, Devin, and thanks for all the memories as well.
Cheers. Thank you.
Devin, it's Don here.
Hiya, Don. How are you?
How you doing? Good. Listen, Joe Smith in his book said that he placed greater emphasis on added value over success. So what added value did you think you brought to Leinster? And is mentoring part of that?
I'd like to think so, yeah. What do my added value? I suppose I touched on it there. I suppose my added value to the team was that I think that's why Joe kind of picked me a lot as well, because he really likes dependability. I secured my line-out ball. I was dependable at restarts. I hit my rucks well. I defended well. I did it like I wasn't. I'll be the first to admit I'm not your star performer. I'm not going to be scoring tries in the corner. I'm not going to be catching crossfield kicks to me. But I do everything you want me to do, and I'll do it well. You know, and I'll secure a line-out ball. So I think one of the big things that Joe loved was obviously. Our set piece plays, you know what I mean, and you need a good functioning line out for that. So I think that's where he saw my added value in the team. And I suppose with Leinster in the last couple of years, you'd like to think that the young guys look up to you, and I suppose and see how you go about your business, and see how you form a line-out menu, and see just how I suppose you got to where you are in your career. I suppose the same thing happened to me when I was a young guy. Do you know what I mean? In Leinster with Ireland, I learned so much off Leo. I learned so much off Paulie. There's like so many second rows I can name, like Mal O'Kelly, Nathan Hines, you know, Brad Thorne. Like there's so many. So I'd like to think that some of the second rows here have learned a bit off me.
And speaking of young fellas, have you noticed an uplift in the Midlands? You know, like from North Kildare club, or an uplift since your career lifted off in a way?
Yeah, no, like you do here. From North Kildare, obviously you've got Marcus Hannon and you've got Will Connors as well. So it's like there are a load of lads coming through from everywhere. That's just a testament, I suppose, to the development officers around the province. I think Leinster are doing a really good job, but. Yeah, I think that's over the last couple of years it's really gotten better, I think, yeah.
And you'd be a role model for many of those.
Yeah, I suppose you'd like to think so, anyway.
Yeah. Thanks, Devin.
Thanks, Don.
Good luck with the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Hi, Devin. It's William Davis from
Hi, William. How are you?
How are you?
How are you?
Is there when you make a decision to retire, I know you have a plan in mind, but is there a slight fear that it's going to be so different to what you've been doing for a long time that you're not even aware of the challenges that might be there yet?
Yeah, no, there is. I've only known one thing since I left school, and I left school in 2004. You know, so it's nearly 18 years ago. Do you know what I mean? So I've only known one thing, and a lot of people say you get very institutionalized. You're told you're told where to be and when to do it and what to wear and what to do. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be a lot different, but I think it's a challenge that I'm looking forward to. I really am looking forward to it. I'd say over the last year, I've known that I was going to make the decision to hang up the boots as well. So. I've been putting stuff in place, and I'd like to think I'm prepared enough for it. Like, yeah, but absolutely, there's a fear. There's always a fear of the unknown, you know.
Excuse me. And what about Matt matches against Connacht at the sports ground. Does any of them stick out on those wet and miserable days that we sometimes get here?
No,
Obviously they go away today, but any of them stick in your head?
yeah, there's a lot. Like, it's obviously a very, very hard, tough place to go. I suppose the one that sticks in the head is the one where John Muldoon was retiring and he took the last kick for the conversion. I can't remember the score now, but it was, I don't know, 40 points or something. Do you know what I mean? So it was they gave us a good hammering that day, which obviously it sticks out in the memory. But we had a good couple of wins there as well. But again, yeah, I'm not going to miss the weather down there, I'll tell you that.
And the other thing is, you talked about you've got a lot of rugby. I've just been looking at your fixtures. There's some serious rugby coming, but you're going to see a lot of Connacht in the next 4 weeks. That you're going to play them 3 times.
I know, yeah.
How odd is that going to be? I know one's URC, 2 are European, but
Yeah.
you're sort of reviewing the same thing over and over again. That must be a bit of a challenge as well, to look for new wrinkles.
That's a huge challenge, yeah. I think it's very, very weird to play a team 3 times in 4 weeks. But we went through a bit of video today. We kind of went through our last game against them, and kind of Stu was just saying that it's what happens in Europe or the back-to-back games is kind of irrelevant. It's literally, it's very, very cliche of what you say. Do you know what I mean? You take one game at a time, but it literally is. Do you know what I mean? We're literally looking at this because it's quite important for our league fixtures to get the win this weekend. And then what happens in Europe. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of, as I said, it's irrelevant what happens then. It's literally all about the league this week.
And are you looking forward to going down to South Africa? You have two serious games down there. I mean,
I know.
It doesn't look an easy place to win. The sides going down. I don't think anybody's won yet.
Not in the slightest. It doesn't look easy at all. I think it's a huge challenge. If you look at the table, all the South African teams are making a push now up the table. Obviously, the weather is going to be very hot. It's going to be very humid, so it's a huge challenge. But yeah, looking forward to it. I'm absolutely if I get picked to go down, yeah.
They couldn't do that to you. Listen, thank you for all you've done for Ireland, and enjoy your spin out to the end.
Thank you very much, William. Cheers.